I'd like to start off by stating with respect and gratitude that this evening is on the unceded and occupied territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples. In the spirit of continuing to be active against colonial injustice and human rights violations, I encourage you to keep on contacting your representatives, boycotting, protesting, and doing whatever actions that you can and are able to do in solidarity with Palestine. Injustice everywhere, anywhere is a threat to justice anywhere. I've previously shared this Martin Luther King Jr. quote at a different event, but it continues to resonate strongly with the global injustices perpetuated, especially during a month dedicated to Black history, and locally with the upcoming annual February 14th March for Women's Memorial March for missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people in this city. If you would like to know more information about that event, totally let me know. And if you would like any more resources about how you can do any actions in solidarity with Palestine, you can also totally reach out to me about that. So, about the event series. The Little Gallery events here at Kassirer Books are organized on a monthly basis to highlight queer, trans, BIPOC, and otherwise underrepresented artists and writers. And I'm your host and co-organizer, Tsleil-Waututh First. We want to make this event as accessible to everyone as possible, so there's really no entrance fee or anything. But if you would like to support the wonderful artists and writers and performers here tonight, aside from purchasing art, stickers, books, scenes, etc., and everything here, we're also doing a tip jar, so this little guy here that will be going out and split between the performers for the event. And Cross and Crows Books just started a Patreon, which you can also join if you would like to support more of these writer events and with more local queer and trans and artists and writers and all that good stuff going on, organized with Nana and the shop. So Nana has more information about that. That's also just something brand new to the shop. And so speaking of art, tonight's feature artist will be featured at the shop for the entire month. So if you know anyone who's been wanting to come by or who would be interested in seeing the art but hasn't had a chance for tonight, maybe a Valentine's cutie or something, this will be here for the month to enjoy. And so I'll just read the bio for Reggie, aka House of Kewpie. She, they pronouns, is a traditional artist based in the unceded land of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh Nations. The art reveals itself, usually in unexpected ways, that makes them initially think they fucked up. houseofkewpie.com, and that's also for Instagram. And so, yeah, for tonight, we're starting with the performer, Marla Brown. Would you like me to read your bio?
Oh,
yeah, sweet. So, Marla Brown is a Barbadian poet and author who has self-published 4 books. His first book, entitled Pictorial, Writing for Stars That Wants to Return to Constellations, was published in 2019 and received 5-star reviews on Amazon. His second, entitled Marla Brown Presents The Young and Gifted, published in 2021, also received 5-star reviews. His third, entitled Thoughts of a Mature Mind, was published and released in 2022. His fourth and latest book, published and released on August 28, 2023, is The Life and the Times of a Poet. Marla is a very versatile poet who has been featured many times online. His work spans topics from social injustice, mental well-being, love, race, health disorders, and many more. Marlo is also an ambassador for Pacific Arts Markets and the MC and host of poetry nights and comedies at the Pacific Art Markets. Yeah, welcome Marlo.
Hi, good night everyone. So, I wrote this poem on the way here, so I don't know how good it will be. Hope you enjoy it. And it's called To My Future Wife. To my future wife, I want to love you right for all of the times that you have been loved wrong. I want to hug you until you forget your fears, kiss away your sorrows. I want to be the company that your misery doesn't need but loves anyway. Instead, I want to show you that being miserable is a choice, and by being with me, you won't have to make that choice. Teach me your love language so that it can be my native tongue. If you tell me that you're a handful, then I will tell you that I have 2 hands with 10 fingers, that I can hold you in both the good and bad times. Show me your vulnerability and I will love you with pride so that every time that you look at me, you can see the colors of the rainbow in my eyes. Tell me about what you perceive to be right and wrong, and I will show you that regardless of color, class, and creed, all lives matter. I'm like the modern bathroom, so my views are gender neutral. Give me a piece of your heart and I will add compound interest to it so that you will know that with each passing year that we spend together, your value doubles. I will not place you on a pedestal, yet I will treasure you more than Da Vinci treasured Mona Lisa. I will fight for you with a lot of lances so that you can remain my Guinevere. Seduce me like Cleopatra so that I can be your Mark Antony. I pen this poem for you, my future wife. To my future wife, tell me what your favorite genre of music is so that we can be in perfect pitch as the melody and harmony of our notes hit new crescendos. I value your personality more than what lies between your thighs, so I want to inhale you in a non-sexual manner. Your demeanor is kinder than many healthcare providers, so my nickname for you is my Nightingale, without either of us traveling to Florence. I loved you before the holiday that will be celebrated in 12 days, so although you will get chocolate and roses, I won't buy your love. Valentine's Day doesn't have to come for me to see red and white. I live in the land of the maple leaf, yet I was born in the land of the broken trident. So, to my future wife, this is an ode to you, so that this is how you remember me. Thank you. Okay, that went a lot better than I expected.
Yeah.
Okay, so I figured that I will start with 2 love poems tonight. And this one is actually entitled Love Poem. They told me to write a love poem, yet it was difficult for me to do so. You see, when I am in love, I want to be the sunlight and water that enables her to photosynthesize her thoughts, so that she can produce the oxygen that is in the air that she breathes when she speaks to me. When we hug, I want to be her home, her safe space, so I smother her depression. I lay waste to her insecurities. I ease her anxiety, so that in turn, we can boost each other's confidence. We grow together so that we won't grow apart from each other. So it's difficult due to the fact that when I'm in love, I want to take us away from this era of instant gratification where people are entitled. We would understand that we are both prizes, so one does not have to chase the other. Instead, we are like hands, so we know that one cannot clap without the other. Yet they told me that relationships are hard work, so I told them that everything in life worth having does. So if a caterpillar is perceived as ugly before it changes into something that is beautiful, then why can't love? They told me to write a love poem, yet it's still difficult for me to do so. You see, when I'm in love, I want a love that is not tainted by media, one where we can be mutually exclusive yet inclusive in our beliefs, nerves, and values. So even though there are cultural differences, we understand each other. There are no posts for likes, no reels that only show our happiest moments. Instead, our love is like a bullet, traveling along a set trajectory until it reaches its target. It causes the death of nonchalance. It erases misery and doom despair to the dark depths of oblivion. Her eyes remind me of the holiday season, so I get excited when she looks at me, since her eyes are my happy place. So when they ask me to write a love poem, I write one that is free of drama, free of infidelity, free of confusion and mixed feelings. It was once thought that true love didn't exist. Yet I realized that we are not our toxic traits. So as we decrease our toxicity, I realize that whenever I write a love poem, I think of you. Okay, so this last one I wrote a couple of days ago, and it was actually based on the fact that this is February's Black History Month. But I wrote a poem back in 2021, not about Black history, but about future. So this time I wanted to be different and talked about blacks in the present. So I hope that you enjoy it. If my phone wants me. Okay. So this one is called Blacks in the Present. I had a dream that I would be a king like Martin, regal with my resolution to rectify and right wrongs while I write. So by any means necessary, I stake an X to my claim like Malcolm, a tenor of tranquility, yet tactfully teaching you the tenets of terror as I show that we are not afraid to fight for our rights. What is Black history? I can free you from mental slavery by leading a rebellion like Bassa, emancipate you from a colonized country like Toussaint, be wrongfully convicted for over 2 decades like Mandela. Yet I can walk freely in a time where racism still exists, but it may not be blatant. Black history encompasses a time where we weren't allowed to sit or enter certain places, so we parked their thoughts at the back of a bus like Rosa, while our women tugged at men's hearts for a female suffrage like Harriet, who was as devoted now as she was. Show me a person who has sacrificed their lives to free enslaved people. While Black history is important, I think that we should focus on blacks in the present. You can take me back to when we walked on air like MJ, served aces like Serena, struck a hole in one like Tiger, then I will ask you to show me a great black person who hasn't reached celebrity status. We live in a time where, unlike 1940, 44% of our women don't work as domestic servants. We live in a time where 86% of white people now have one of us as a friend, whereas in 1964, they will move if we were in the same neighborhood. We create and reinvent ourselves like Prince. We talk about purple rain, yet we omit black issues. Tell me, why is it that every other ethnic group has a seat at the table where they change legislation, yet we don't? We talk about community, yet we have difficulty in executing unity. Show me a scenario where black love is prevalent instead of broken homes and we are bashing each other. Show me a scenario where black children are being constantly raised by 2 black parents so that we wouldn't be victims of generational trauma. Show me a time where we are at the forefront of the media in a positive light instead of our good deeds being under or never reported. So in the month of Black history, let us create a presence so that they can talk about blacks in the present. Thank you.
And so now we have our next performer. Aria, would you like me to read your bio? Aria Chen, an artist and creator that lost herself to cognitive processing trauma many years ago. Aria has been self-medicated Murad approaches of art therapy to cope as a survivor of various traumas, and to revive and foster her comfort with her own unique self-expression. Like her childhood violin that she loved to play until she couldn't for medical reasons, she has reached a stage in her recovery where she is willing to try playing for others again. Among many topics, Aria's prose covers topics from her intersectional queer, trans, POC identity, trauma and mental health, and relationships. But as a self-identified transhumanist, she also writes about ideology and politics, futurism, and spiritual and existentialism. Aria!
So this is my very first reading, and I'm also very new. So I'm kind of still riding my little tricycle on the poetry. Thank you. Okay, so I'll just kind of go right into it. Yeah, for this first one, I love Star Trek. If anyone knows of Deep Space Nine, Worf is very new to poetry himself. He was asked to write a bit of poetry because Klingons, after a great battle, they're tasked with writing a bit of poetry to memorialize the event. So, Worf being a Newport himself, I found a bit of inspiration from him. So, it's called Worf's Poem. This is the story of a little ship that took a little trip. Through the wormhole's vortex, accretion disk on sensors, like a batleth handle's hilt slimming to a blade's tip. Jem'Hadar attacks, mission disruption, we just got hit. They overtook our ship like warriors without honor, damaged the systems, we couldn't go farther. We're tasked to fix and we tried to stall, did everything we could, only Kira was working at all. In this time we were unaware, Jadzia, Julian, and Miles scheming on their own, moving quietly and softly, like setting a snare. As small, noble warriors, they figured it out, changed the controls so we could reroute. Though a small battle, we were on their fence, we took back the Defiant without consequence. Though a good day to die, I end it with blood wine. With the stress of the day to say with some truth, I could really use some of that prune juice. This one deals with more of my politics. It's called Path. Living in the future is hard to imagine for some. Life is volatile for many. There's many things to be done. Food is expensive, as is rent. Things keep going up, they're not well met. We try to keep up, but it's not fair, you see. We try to get by, but savings head towards negativity. Climate change is real, decolonization is slow going. With increase in automation, more jobs will be replaced. More will have to retrain, readjust, and even downsize to smaller space. Many more will likely have to go on assistance, despite society's citizens rising up in resistance. Changes to infrastructure should force a transition. Among them are UBI, social support, and of course, reparations. Enforcement of egalitarian, pluralist, charter rights. As we look to the future, we will see lots of fights. Universal advanced education is my best ideal. Most uni and doctorate programs are online. Many uni and doctorate programs are online. They just have to be valid as free credentials. Hopefully by then, people would see that longer full lives could be a benefit if we were just free from capitalism. Okay, this one will require a trigger warning for sexual assault. You having a good night? Feeling safe, supported, and comfortable? Want some water? A snack to keep up your energy? Drinking or consuming substances tonight? Need cup covers, condoms, or lube? How about test strips or Narcan? I love your heels. Do you want socks for later? We're here to help. It's late. We intervene on assault. Bystander interventive sexual assault. Prevention and survivor support. Not everyone knows of the dangers. The bad actors, the deniers, the wolves in sheep's clothing. With no power, I've been there. in shock, not knowing what to do. With the hurt, with the pain, with the broken trust, I did complain, feeling worthless like an object, ongoing emptiness, ongoing time, suffering silently, oxyacetylene torch. I'm here to help. I can even provide hugs. I don't want it to happen to you, alone, unsupported. At least, we're supposed to. That was called oxyacetylene support. So these ones are fine in comparison. Okay. This one's called Scab. Even if you aren't ready to hold yourself accountable, it may still come later, like a scab, unpleasant, never quite healed, crossing lines, not caring about the greater good, individual choice and freedoms, agency, autonomy, self-determination. It's up to you to make change. Yeah, this one's a little lighter. It's called Mellow Tea. You owe it to your visions to experience your skeletons in blood with witnesses, constantly suffering from bites, brain activity that doesn't heal for weeks. That network of power into spaceships and stars. I will have to say great inspiration from melody. Just have to say, just try to do. And then yeah, this is my final one for tonight. So this one I wrote, it's one of my first ones that I actually felt good about. And I wrote it for my nephew, for his Christmas present. So he loves D&D. He's still quite a young kid, so he loves D&D, he loves board games, and he's also a huge reader. So I thought he might enjoy this. It's called, just called A Poem for My Nephew. In the kingdom of Tai, there was a great guy who loved to play games, imagine, create, and tell what flies. Humans, druids, drows, and elves, we like to make and play them ourselves. But in the kingdom of Tai, with his all-seeing eyes, a role may be fail so severe that it may be time to die. Even if the time has ended, it's okay because time's just lended. Though you got slayed at the end of the day, it was great time because the day was for play. Little fun thing about that one, he thought it was AI generated.
You are not a robot.
Thank you so much. So, Kassirer, they them, is a spoken word poet currently residing on the unceded lands of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations, colonially known as Vancouver. Their autobiographical poetry focuses on gender and sexuality, grief, disability, and sex work. Kay has toured internationally, performing at venues like Buddies in Bad Times Theatre, Busboys and Poets, and the Bowery Poetry Club. They have competed at over a dozen national and international poetry slam festivals, earning their place on several competitive final stages. Notably, Kay placed second at Capturing Fire International Queer Slam 2016, and third at the Canadian Festival of Spoken Word 2018, and the Canadian Individual Poetry Slam 2019. Kay curated and edited A Whore's Manifesto, an anthology of writing and artwork by sex workers, published by Thornapple Press. Their work has been featured in numerous places, including Button Poetry, Slam Find, Right About Now, and the Art Poetry. You can find them at kassirer.com. And here's two of the lovely writings that they have for sale here for today. Welcome, Kay.
Thanks, guys, for co-creating this bit.
Thank you.
My sexuality moonlights as mistress, dresses up as girl next door, cloaks itself in fantasy. My sexuality has an hourly rate, charges extra for choking, only has sex with people it does not love. My sexuality looks like crisp bills in candlelight, like envelopes full of 50s tucked in underwear drawer, like pictures with my face blurred but my tits out. My sexuality smells like scented candles and stale semen, tastes like latex and lube, looks like anything but itself. My sexuality hides behind lingerie and white wine, says no quietly, followed by thank you, followed by sorry. My sexuality tried to fit itself into a box, but now Schrodinger isn't sure if it is alive anymore. My sexuality is fisting the system, is fucking the patriarchy, is forgetting last night ever happened. My sexuality looks like memories I can't erase, and money that doesn't feel like mine, and strangers and their fucking expectations. My sexuality knows what it looks like. Wants to tattoo horror on its inner lips when you spit that word at it, we'll both know it was in its mouth first. My sexuality wears dyke, like a tattoo it sometimes lies about the meaning of, but regardless, it is always on its skin. My sexuality gets shy when trying new things. Expects others to expect it to be experienced. My sexuality is experienced, and by that I mean often experiences its body not feeling like its own. My sexuality had forgotten the direction of home, but then found love right as a North Star, found comfort in the crook of their arms, found partners that hold me after a long day at work. Don't judge me when I show them where it hurts. My sexuality used to be strictly a performance. Outfit put on for the show. Costume taken off when curtains close. But my sexuality is reinventing its boundaries. Relearning its confidence. Remembering a time before it only existed as a mirror, reflecting someone else's desires. My sexuality says no, without saying thank you, without saying sorry. So you can find that poem in the anthology I edited, A Whore's Manifesto, which is, I've got copies, they're $15 to $20, and you can also find that poem in Fisting the System, a chapbook of my work, which is $5 to $10. I'm going to do a few newer pieces. from the manuscript I'm working on. My jaw specialist tells me I shouldn't be giving blowjobs. The repetitive motion will only aggravate my arthritis. I don't tell her that I don't have that luxury. That I wish they were called blow hobbies and not blow jobs. But this is the only job I am able to maintain. At 18, I got fired from a vape lounge for having too many bathroom breakdowns. Silently sobbing into my sleeve, eyes rubbed raw with toilet paper. Ever since, I've survived by unbuckling belt loops, kneeling in supplication, swallowing my pride. The short work hours keep the panic attacks to the privacy of my own bedroom, but now it is my body's turn to rebel. I give a client a blowjob, and my jaw screams at me like the kettle on my stove demanding to be taken off the heat. I give a client a blowjob, and my jaw jumps out of its socket, so I subtract the cost of treatments from my profits. Hand over his $100 bills to receptionists. My jaw specialist tells me I shouldn't be getting blowjobs, and I don't ask her how else I'm supposed to pay for these appointments. Instead, I say nothing. My sore jaw clenched shut, like a jar of honey, a pill bottle, the lid of a casket. This poem's a two-parter. There wasn't one particular moment in time in which I realized I was queer. It was years of misunderstood signals. Butterflies I kept telling myself were moths, waiting to chew away at the fabric of my closeted clothes. It was years of ignoring intentions and inventing feelings, calling any boy who paid attention to me attractive. But there was the moment I first questioned why the girl sitting in front of me in English class caught my eye, then forced myself to forget my fascination, not yet ready to recognize this as romantic. There was the moment I first said the words out loud, whispered quietly in a high school hallway, cupped hand covering my mouth, her ear, afraid the words would escape us. Afraid I was actually mistaken. There was the moment a friend first asked my pronouns and told me they weren't sure what theirs were either. I saw my queerness mirrored back at me, knew I wasn't alone in my questioning, found community in people who didn't care about the uncertainties of my identity, people who listened to my questions without judging me for not having all the answers. There were all the moments I came out as a new identity. I've been bisexual, lesbian, asexual, agender, genderqueer. I have collected labels like lapel pins, piling up on my dresser, unsure of which one to wear today. There will always be parts of my identity left unspoken, feelings I don't know how to describe, but I can use the word queer to encompass the complexity of my existence. A single word that shifts and grows as I do. There wasn't one particular moment in time in which I realized I was queer. I didn't wake up one morning with the words to describe my attraction to girls or the fact that I'm not one. It was years of growing so accustomed to yearning, I didn't realize it was there. Years of feeling so soft and subtle they were easy to ignore. So now, I shout the word queer wherever it is safe, just in case anyone around me needs one of those moments of questioning the status quo, or seeing themselves mirrored back and realizing they are not alone, that community can exist even without certainty in identity. We are here, whether we know it yet or not. We are surviving despite the odds. That's part one. And this is part two. There wasn't one particular moment in time in which I realized I was disabled. It was years of misunderstood signals. Convincing myself the smoke detectors blaring in my brain were false alarms. That I wasn't actually on fire. It was years of ignoring sensations and inventing excuses, as disassociation disconnected me from my body. But there was the moment I first questioned why. These symptoms persisted longer than the doctors expected. Cursed myself for being weak. Swore I would recover soon. There was the moment I first said the words out loud. Staring at an empty disability application, fall in tears, smudging hospital records as I realized I wouldn't be getting better anytime soon. There was the moment a friend first gave me an informal diagnosis, commented on how my symptoms looked just like theirs. I saw my disability mirrored back at me, knew I wasn't alone in my questioning, found community in people who didn't care that I didn't have a diagnosis. People who answered my questions years before the doctors could. There were all the moments a doctor gave me a new diagnosis. Anxiety, arthritis, ARFID, BPD, TMJ, HSD. I have collected disorders like empty pill bottles. I keep telling myself I'll use them in an art project someday. But for now, they just look like clutter. There will always be parts of me left undiagnosed. Symptoms I don't know how to describe, but I can use the word disabled to encompass the complexity of my existence. A single word that shifts and grows as I do. There wasn't one particular moment in time in which I realized I was disabled. I didn't wake up one morning with words to describe the ways my body rebels against itself. It was years of growing so accustomed to pain, I didn't realize it was there. Years of changes so slow and subtle they weren't noticed until it was too late. So now, I shout the word disabled wherever it is safe, just in case anyone around me needs one of those moments of questioning the status quo, or seeing themselves mirrored back and realizing they are not alone, that community can exist. Even without a diagnosis, we are here. Whether we know it yet or not, you're surviving, despite the odds. One last shorter poem. I've spent too many years being angry at my anatomy, irritated by the agony of chronic illness, joints clicking like a faulty motor, stomach turning over like an old engine, muscles burning as I am left running on fumes. Doctors had me thinking I was unsalvageable. They couldn't diagnose the problem and gave up on trying, so I blamed my body for the ways it breaks down, wishing I could trade it in, like an old car for cash. But I don't want to end up in a junkyard. Once, in the middle of the woods, I saw an abandoned car that the forest had reclaimed, vines climbing up its sides and sprouts shooting through rusted holes in the bottom. The forest didn't see the car as unsalvageable, saw a home in its broken down body, squirrels nesting in the old engine, honeysuckle peeking through cracked windows, mushrooms cradling deflated tires connected to root systems deep in the ground, grounding the car in a network of mycelium. I didn't realize how much life could still exist within me until I found myself grounded in disabled community. I am reclaiming my body, blooming through everything the doctors abandoned. Thank you.
Sgsmåþkvəy is a South Asian settler residing on unceded Coast Salish lands. She is a writer, organizer, workshop facilitator, and multidisciplinary artist. She believes art makes living bearable and is doing her best to put more color into the world. She means this both in the sense of brightening up the mundane with creatures as well as in her mission to uplift the truths of marginalized bodies. She is currently working on her first novel, in addition to other multidisciplinary art projects. Friends hopes. You dream often. She hopes you find reasons to stay. You can follow her on Instagram at friends_Seashell. There you go.
have been trying to resolve parts of me. The ones both too brown and not brown enough. I'm high in a hammock and thinking of all the ancestors it took to place me here. Thinking of all the work it took to place me here. High in a hammock. I've been thinking in boxes. The sun's in my skin. Cyclically, I have been trying to erase parts of me, scrubbing dead cells down shower drains. I found a letter I wrote to myself. My New Year's resolutions have always been the same. Be less messy. I still don't quite understand the land I come from. I travel these unceded Coast Salish forests sleep in tents. I shiver in my sleeping bag as the wind hits crescendo. I can't help but to think, I'm not supposed to be here. My body is not built for this climate. My tongue tastes like mango in my dreams. I do not know how to claim another home. I do not know how to claim a culture other than bong tokes and body mods. Do I shave my hairy legs? In the glacial waters, my bones crawl back into me. I do not drown the parts of myself I want to. I do not drown, though I want to be enveloped by sound waves. The drum reminds my heart to beat. My ancestors help heal parts of me. The wind sings my skin's not a sin. My ancestors tell me it's okay to find the light streaming through leaves. They tell me it's okay to spend time in my summer skin. They remind me of a time before colonization, when the beauty in our bodies ran free. We're allowed to be messy, to go back and forth and around again. I don't have to be the perfect daughter. I untie my hammock, thank the tree for supporting me. I wonder how many of my bodies to calculate the roots. The children of immigrants are trying to learn their culture through textbooks. I was born on a land I can't claim. My ancestors claimed by the Portuguese and British. I asked my white professor to pair me with the bodies that look like me, so I can reclaim my story. He said obliging more than once would feel like favoritism, like the system isn't constructed to favor the education of white bodies, like I'm not trying to find my voice within these walls of academia, like whiteness isn't assumed the standard, like my body isn't labeled. Is it favoritism to pair the marginalized bodies when instead of feedback from my poems, I have to lift the emotional intelligence of my white peers explaining the impact of my skin on my interactions with the world? I am too tired to change out of baggy sweatpants and an oversized jacket during the pandemic. The amount of people at Walmart makes me anxious. I wonder, in my writing class of mainly white bodies, will only my hand raise? Forgetting a bag search for buying toothpaste. I'm trying to trace my parents' wounds back to something I can claim. Displaced in Surrey with bodies that look like me, but I am still othered because of the god colonizers forced us to kneel to. I imagine my parents landing, new immigrants waving the white flag of Anglo before Indian. What happened to my ancestors who wouldn't hear the good news? A vegan tried to explain the variations of rice when I tried to use it as a metaphor for my inherited desire to be lighter. I never found myself in textbooks. just learned that diversity is a way of telling me my body is other. Those last two poems you can find on the internet as video pieces. I was lucky enough to get funding to produce both of them at different times. One you can find on MazaArtsCollective.com. We got to do a digital anthology of South Ocean poets kind of across so-called Canada, and the other, if you just go to Enable Art Society, our YouTube page, it's called Displaced in the Classroom if you want to check it out. They both have like music and sound attached to it to add some otherness to it. I always think it's important to say like sources of poetry. As poets, we get a lot of inspiration from a lot of different people. So this next poet or poem was inspired by To Be Young, Anita Frika. If you don't know who that is, look her up. She's amazing. Each first line of each stanza is one line of her poem. Yeah. So a poet once said after To Be Young, I own nothing. Even time is borrowed, my name a mask to fit in. I am the accumulation of all my memories combined with how the world sees sun in my skin. In order to nurture creation, turn back to nature, to inspiration in roots. When I speak, the ancestors move through me. Art is the conversation I have with myself in the mirror when I say, keep going, breathe slow. Leadership aims at chances to make steps with momentum. The aim of mentorship is to keep fires burning, to teach the young to raise voices. Dare to live, even though it's terrifying, even though there's a way out. Paying close attention to how the self radiates, to birds playing bath in the gutter. Breathe fully, letting go of shaming. The past lessons must be learned. I am who I am. I am enough. I will be okay. I am okay. Blooms, seasonal. The spring is near. I got two more pieces I want to share tonight. They're both hopefully going to be in my upcoming novel. It's like a hybrid novel, so it's poetry mixed with prose. Just a little backstory context for the next two pieces. They're written from the point of view of the protagonist, who's like a South Asian, grade 12, millennial, so like 2014, you know. It's one of those coming of age, good old high school stories, so that's kind of like the world we're in. Yeah, usually I read like the dates and stuff, but we're only doing two pieces, so yeah, I'll just read the titles. But this one's called Some Favorites. The color green, but only if it's forest. The color blue, but only if it's sky. The color red, but only if it's crimson. The way Cedric Diggory jumps down from the tree the first time he's shown in the Goblet of Fire, and also the way Edward Cullen says, spider monkey. The smell of water hitting pavement on the hot day. The hot day. The first bite of McDonald's French fries and the last bite of DQ ice cream cake. But only if it's the chocolate layers. The taste of pizza the next day. The sound of the last bell. The way I remember most of my dreams. The dream I had about the seal taking me to explore the shores the dream I had about the never-ending bookstore. The way he looks when I say hi to him in the hallway after the weekend. And this last piece is one I like to end out with kind of my wish for you as you go on to the rest of your night, to the rest of your weekend. It's called Promises, and again, to kind of cite sources, this one was inspired by Alok. If you don't know who Alok is, look them up. They're pretty cool, amazing poet, comedian, activist, all around great human being. They have a couple books too, so request those. Yeah, so this is called Promises. Promise you won't stop trying. Promise you'll keep trying when it's not easy. Promise to hold on to hope. Promise to keep hoping when it's not easy. Promise you won't stop looking. Promise you'll keep looking for joy, looking for reasons to stay. Promise that you'll stay, that you'll try to wake tomorrow. Promise you won't hold your breath. Promise you won't beg for love. Promise you'll love you. Promise you'll love you even when they don't, even when they won't. Promise love will come. Love, promise to take steps. Promise you'll love